The night after the rejection, I couldn't sleep. The food I brought still sat untouched on the passenger seat. Cold, heavy, like the silence between us. I drove back to my hotel, the snow blurring every thought. How could they erase me so easily? The next morning, I stared at my laptop screen. Bank statements filled the monitor, lines of numbers like scars. Every month, automatic transfers to my parents' account. $2,000 for the mortgage. $1,500 for household expenses. Another $1,200 for my brother's debts. I had never missed a payment. Never questioned where the money went. I thought I was helping. I thought I was loved. My chest tightened as I scrolled. There were new transactions I didn't recognize. Luxury stores. Expensive restaurants. A down payment for a lake house in Maine. Lake house. We never owned property near a lake. I called my old neighbor, Mrs. Nolan. Her voice cracked over the line. They left early this morning, dear. Said they were going to Tyler's cabin by the water. My hand froze on the phone. Tyler never mentioned a cabin. He barely mentioned anything except money. A bitter taste filled my mouth. I opened another tab, checking my savings account. The balance was smaller than I remembered. Too small. Months of quiet theft disguised as family need. I canceled every transfer one by one. The cursor blinked like a pulse on the screen. Cancel. Confirm. Cancel again. Each click felt like reclaiming oxygen. My phone buzzed with a message. From Tyler. Too late. Mom and Dad already pulled next month's funds. Enjoy Thanksgiving alone, sis. My hands shook as I read. The words blurred, cruel and final. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling. The hotel room was silent, except for my heartbeat. I thought about the years I spent saving them. Paying for their house. Skipping vacations. Driving an old car while wiring money to help. Every promotion was followed by another request. Another sacrifice. And I said yes every time. Because that's what good daughters do. Because love, I thought, meant giving until it hurts. But maybe love shouldn't feel like debt. I closed the laptop. The snow outside had stopped falling. Morning light cut through the curtains, pale and cold. Somewhere in that silence, something inside me cracked. Not from sadness this time, but from clarity. They didn't forget me. They erased me because it was convenient. Because I was no longer useful. And now, for the first time in years, I had nothing left to give. I picked up my phone again. Opened a blank note. Typed 3 words I hadn't said before. They used me. Then I added one more. Enough. The next Monday, I walked into the office early. The city was still quiet, the glass towers reflecting pale light. My reflection looked composed, but my hands trembled slightly. I turned on my computer, the numbers glowing like secrets. Transfers, deposits, withdrawals, all in neat digital order. Only now I saw the chaos beneath the structure. My family's accounts were linked to mine in subtle ways. Joint authorizations. Shared beneficiaries. Things I had set up years ago without thinking. I opened the company software for tracing anomalies. If anyone could find a pattern, it was me. Or so I thought. The results made my stomach twist. Repeated deposits from unknown businesses into my brother's firm. Amounts just under the legal reporting limit. Classic laundering behavior. I stared at the screen, willing the numbers to make sense. They didn't. I printed the reports and walked to Marcus's office. He was our senior auditor, calm, precise, unshakable. "Can you look at this?" I asked. He adjusted his glasses, scanning the pages. A frown creased his forehead. "Elena, this isn't sloppy bookkeeping. These are structuring patterns. Someone's cleaning dirty money through legitimate accounts." The words dropped like stones in my chest. I swallowed hard. Those accounts belong to my family. He looked up slowly, searching my face. Are you sure you didn't authorize this yourself? My throat went dry. They used my credentials. I thought I was just helping with bills. Marcus leaned back, rubbing his temples. You need to protect yourself. If this gets out, it could look like you're involved. The air felt heavy. Every tick of the clock sounded like accusation. I closed the door, lowering my voice. Can you trace the origin? He nodded, typing fast. Minutes passed. The only sound was the hum of machines. Then he stopped, pointing at a name. Anthony Belus. You've heard of him, right? I nodded slowly. Rumors, investigations, whispered connections to organized crime. My brother once bragged about a silent investor. I thought he was lying. Now, the proof was right there. The room spun. Marcus reached across the desk. Elena, you need to take this to the authorities. I shook my head automatically. They're my family. He didn't flinch. They're criminals, Elena. And they've put you in danger. I stared at the reports again, the ink smudged by my shaking hand. Everything I built could collapse if anyone thought I was complicit. My career. My reputation. The life I'd fought for. But silence would destroy me anyway. I gathered the files and slipped them into my briefcase. Marcus's voice followed me to the door. Don't wait too long. The longer you stay quiet, the deeper you sink. Outside, the sky was turning gray. Cold wind cut through my coat as I stepped into the street. The truth was out there, waiting, sharp and merciless. And I was finally ready to chase it. That night, I couldn't stop replaying Marcus's words. Criminals. Danger. The kind of truth you can't unsee once it's revealed. I sat in the dark, laptop open, coffee gone cold. If I was going to face this, I needed proof. Real proof. Something undeniable. I searched every folder, every shared document I'd ever sent them. Hidden within years of transfers were new accounts I didn't recognize. They used my ID numbers, my passwords, even my electronic signature. Every line whispered betrayal. By morning, my inbox pinged with a new message. From Mrs. Nolan. She said there was something I should see. I drove to Vermont before sunrise, heart pounding. Her house smelled of cinnamon and old wood. Without a word, she handed me a tablet. Watch this, she said softly. The video showed my childhood home at 3 a.m. My father prying open the back door with a screwdriver. My mother holding a flashlight, her face tight with fear. Tyler followed, a briefcase in hand. They searched for hours, tearing through rooms, scattering papers. Where are those records? My father snapped on the recording. She always keeps copies of everything. My throat burned as I watched. Mrs. Nolan's voice shook. They came the night after you visited. They were looking for something about your grandmother. She slid a small envelope across the table. This was in her old desk. I think she meant it for you. Inside was a folded document, yellowed but intact. My grandmother's true will. Her elegant signature still clear at the bottom. She had left everything to me. The property, the investments, all of it. They had forged another version to favor Tyler. I felt the room tilt, air sucked from my lungs. My own family had stolen not just my money, but my legacy. I pressed the paper to my chest, trembling. Mrs. Nolan placed a gentle hand on mine. You need to take this to the authorities, dear. I nodded, tears hot against my skin. By the time I reached Boston that evening, resolve replaced shock. I met Marcus in his office. He saw the envelope and understood without words. I'll call someone I trust, he said. A few hours later, we sat across from an FBI agent named Sarah Whitman. Her tone was calm, professional, unwavering. You're doing the right thing, Ms. Ward. But you must know, Once you start this, there's no turning back. I slid the flash drive and the will across the desk. I already lost everything, I said quietly. What's left to protect is the truth. Sarah met my gaze and nodded once. Then she reached for her phone. Outside, the city lights blurred through the rain. And for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of the storm. 3 days later, everything moved fast. Faster than I could breathe. FBI vans rolled out before dawn, lights cutting through fog. Sarah's voice came through the phone, steady and focused. They're executing warrants now. Stay where you are. I stood by the window of my apartment, watching the city wake. Somewhere miles away, my parents' door was being broken open. Somewhere, my brother was being handcuffed. I wanted to feel relief, but all I felt was hollow. The phone buzzed again. Lake House secured. 2 suspects in custody. Documents recovered. Another message followed minutes later. Car wash office, Tyler tried deleting files. Forensics team retrieved backups. I closed my eyes. This was real now. No more illusions. No more family excuses. By afternoon, the story hit every news site. Prominent family, involved in financial fraud and laundering. Photos of my parents flashed on the screen, pale and stunned. My name was mentioned as the whistleblower. The truth had a price, and I was paying it. My phone rang nonstop. Reporters. Old friends. Even distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years. I turned it all off. Silence was safer. That night, I sat alone on the couch, the city glowing beyond my windows. For the first time, there were no demands to meet. No guilt to carry. Just quiet. It felt both foreign and sacred. Marcus stopped by with takeout. He didn't say much, just placed a hand on my shoulder. They'll try to blame you, he said softly. Let them try. We ate in silence, the clatter of chopsticks grounding me. Later, Sarah called again. They're claiming you knew about the transfers. I laughed, sharp and humorless. Of course they are. We'll prove otherwise, she said. Her confidence steadied me. Days blurred into weeks. Depositions. Statements. Endless paperwork. Each signature felt like closing another door. The investigators found forged documents, fake wills, offshore accounts. All signed under my digital credentials. Every lie had my name on it. But truth leaves a cleaner mark. Evidence doesn't care about love or loyalty. It only cares about facts. The day the indictment came, I watched the news in silence. My father stared straight at the cameras, jaw tight. My mother's eyes were red but dry. Tyler hung his head, handcuffs glinting under flashbulbs. The anchor's voice droned about betrayal within family finances. I muted the sound. There was nothing left to explain. Nothing left to mourn. Outside, snow began to fall again. The same soft flakes that once greeted me at that doorstep. Only this time, they felt clean. Cold, yes, but honest. And in that quiet whiteness, I realized something. Justice doesn't heal you. It simply gives you room to start healing yourself. Spring came quietly, without permission. The snow melted into the cracks of the city, washing away what remained. I packed my apartment one box at a time. The framed degrees. The corporate suits. The empty awards that no longer meant success. Everything that once defined me felt weightless now. I donated half of it to a women's shelter downtown. The rest I left behind for the next tenant. When I crossed the bridge out of Boston, the skyline disappeared in the mirror. Ahead waited Portland, gray skies and sea air. A place no one knew my name. A place I could start again. The apartment was small, but filled with light. The kind that didn't hide anything. I bought a wooden desk, a second-hand chair, and nothing else for a while. Silence felt strange but kind. Marcus called one evening, his voice softer than usual. The foundation paperwork is ready. I smiled for the first time in months. The Financial Freedom Project. A fund for victims of financial abuse. People like me. People who loved too much and lost everything to those they trusted. We filed the first scholarship application that night. For a young woman trying to rebuild after her parents stole her inheritance. Full circle, I thought. Mrs. Nolan sent a care package with her usual note. Some doors close so better ones can open. She never said much, but somehow she always knew. Then came the letter. My mother's handwriting, elegant, deliberate. Dear Elena, we only wanted to protect you. Tyler made mistakes, but he's still your brother. Family forgives. I read it twice, calm as still water. Then I wrote across the envelope in black ink. No such person at this address. I dropped it in the outgoing mail without hesitation. That night, I stood on the balcony watching fishing boats return to harbor. The wind carried salt and possibility. Marcus stopped by with dinner, as he did every Friday. We ate on the floor, surrounded by boxes and laughter. For once, there was no performance, no expectation. Just two people breathing the same quiet air. You did the right thing, he said. His tone wasn't pity, it was respect. I looked out over the dark water. Doing the right thing doesn't always feel good. He nodded. Maybe not. But it always feels clean. After he left, I stayed by the window, tracing the city lights. They looked softer from here. Less like judgment, more like forgiveness. I had a new name now. Elena Harrow. My grandmother's name reborn. A name without chains. I whispered it to myself like a promise. This time, my life would belong to no one else. No more guilt. No more saving those who never wanted saving. Only truth. Only freedom. And in that quiet, I finally understood. Sometimes rebirth doesn't roar. Sometimes it begins in silence, with a single breath that feels like your first. Thanksgiving arrived with golden light spilling through the windows. The sea outside was calm, the air carrying a quiet peace. I woke early, the scent of herbs and roasted vegetables filling the kitchen. For the first time in years, I cooked not to impress, but to nourish. Each slice of bread, each stir of the spoon felt like reclaiming something lost. The table was small, but every plate shone with intention. Crystal glasses caught the sun, scattering it across the wooden floor. I placed my grandmother's old lace cloth at the center. It had survived everything: time, fire, betrayal. So had I. The doorbell rang just as the timer buzzed. Marcus stood there, coat dusted with salt air, smile easy. He carried a bottle of wine, and that look of quiet loyalty. Behind him came Mrs. Nolan, cheeks pink from the cold. She held a photo album under one arm and a box of tulip bulbs in the other. Thought your garden could use a bit of color, she said. Next was Sarah, no badge today, just a plate of pecan squares and a warm laugh. One by one, more people arrived. Friends, colleagues, neighbors, faces that had chosen me, not inherited me. By the time the table filled, the house glowed with voices and light. Marcus raised his glass. To second chances. Laughter rippled through the room. Mrs. Nolan nodded, her eyes soft. And to people brave enough to take them. My chest ached, but it was the good kind, the kind that comes from healing. Sarah leaned forward. So, how's the foundation doing? I smiled. Our first scholarship was approved. Her name, Emma. She starts college next fall. Applause broke out, gentle and real. It felt like the world exhaling. Later, as dessert was passed around, my phone buzzed once. A message from the correctional facility. Tyler's parole hearing denied. I turned it face down, letting the world move on without me. The conversation returned to laughter and stories. The kind that build rather than break. Mrs. Nolan opened the photo album. Pictures of a little girl in a red coat planting tulips. Me smiling in the dirt, untouched by fear. "See," she said, "you were always stronger than you thought." The fire crackled softly. Someone began humming an old song. I looked around the table, at these people who had become my chosen family. Every smile was unforced, every word free of expectation. It was messy and imperfect, and completely real. As we cleared the table, I caught my reflection in the window. No longer the daughter begging to be seen. No longer the woman defined by loss. Just me. Alive. Whole. Outside, snow began to fall again, slow and silent. I opened the door, let the cold air in. It brushed against my skin like forgiveness. Behind me, laughter carried through the house, warm, honest, alive. And I knew, without question, this was home. Morning light spilled across the harbor, painting gold over quiet waves. Steam rose from my coffee, soft and steady. I stood by the window, watching boats drift toward open water. Each one moved forward without hesitation. Maybe that was the point, keep moving. The name on my mailbox read Elena Harrow. It still felt new, but it belonged to me. The old name was buried, with the silence I once lived in. A letter from the attorney lay on the table. Final papers from my grandmother's estate. Her handwriting on the last page whispered like memory. "Don't let anyone dim your light, my dear." I traced the words with my fingertip, smiling. Outside, gulls cried over the waves, free and certain. I opened the balcony door and let the wind in. It smelled like salt, change, and something close to peace. I wasn't the daughter they erased anymore. I was the woman I built from the ashes they left behind. Maybe freedom isn't loud. Maybe it's quiet mornings, honest work, and a heart that no longer hides. The world waited beyond the water. And for the first time, I was ready to meet it.